Before Queen Victoria ruled an empire, she was not even allowed to be alone. The system around her was designed to keep her weak, dependent, and easy to control. It failed. But 2 generations later, the family she built to bring Europe closer together would watch Europe tear itself apart. Welcome back to EraSpeak. To understand how a future queen became trapped inside her own home, we need to begin with a royal death no one expected. In 1817, Princess Charlotte, the only child of the future King George IV and heir to the throne, dies suddenly after childbirth. Just like that, the royal family has no clear next generation of heirs. Several of King George III's unmarried sons rush to marry and have children. One of them is Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. In 1819, Edward and his new wife have a daughter, born in Kensington Palace, who, through an extraordinary chain of deaths in the royal family, could someday inherit the British throne. Her name is Alexandrina Victoria. The world will remember her simply as Victoria. Her father dies before she turns 1 year old. That leaves her mother, the Duchess of Kent, to raise her, with the help of one man who wants far more than to help. His name is Sir John Conroy. Together, the Duchess and Conroy build a strict set of rules around young Victoria. Historians later call it the Kensington System. Under this system, Victoria is never left without supervision. She sleeps in her mother's room every night of her childhood. She is not allowed to walk down a staircase without holding an adult's hand. She has almost no contact with other children her own age. Even her private diary is read and corrected by the adults around her. On paper, it looks like protection. In practice, it is control. Conroy has a plan behind it. British law says that if a monarch inherits the crown while still a minor, a regent must rule in their place. If Victoria becomes queen before she turns 18, her mother would likely become that regent, with Conroy standing close behind her, guiding every decision. It becomes a race against time. Conroy needs Victoria to stay dependent long enough for her uncle, King William IV, to die before her 18th birthday. Victoria turns 18 on the 24th of May, 1837. King William dies less than a month later. Conroy's plan collapses by a matter of weeks. Before dawn on the 20th of June, 1837, 2 men arrive at Kensington Palace to deliver the news. Victoria comes downstairs alone, in her dressing gown, to receive them. The first time in her life she has ever met visitors without her mother standing beside her. She is queen. Her first act as monarch is small, but it says everything. Her first request as queen is reportedly simple: to be left alone for 1 hour. For the first time she can remember, no one is watching her. That night, she writes in her diary, "I shall do my utmost to fulfill my duty towards my country." Within days, she moves her bed out of her mother's room. She refuses to give Conroy any position in her royal household and pushes him out of her own circle of influence. The girl the system tried to keep dependent has just proven it wrong. 3 years later, in 1840, Victoria marries her cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Albert is serious, well-educated, and fascinated by science, industry, and moral reform. Together, the two of them help reshape what the British monarchy even means. The crown becomes less openly political. Instead, Victoria and Albert present the throne as something new, a moral, respectable family. It becomes a model that Britain's fast-growing middle class can look up to and admire. In 1851, Albert organizes the Great Exhibition. He fills a giant glass palace in London with the newest inventions of the age. The event turns the royal couple into symbols of progress. Victoria, for her part, keeps working closely with her prime ministers behind the scenes. She reads state papers every single day of her reign. The monarchy is changing its face. It is not giving up its influence. But not everyone admires their queen. On the 10th of June 1840, Victoria is riding in an open carriage, 4 months pregnant with her first child, when a young man named Edward Oxford steps forward and fires 2 pistols at her. Both shots miss. Victoria is unharmed. Instead of frightening the public away from her, the attack does the opposite. Crowds gather along the streets to cheer for their queen, relieved by her calm and impressed by her courage. A jury later finds Oxford guilty, but insane. He spends nearly 24 years locked away before he is finally released, on the condition that he leave the country forever. It will not be the last time someone tries to kill Victoria. It will not be the last time the attempt makes people love her more. Over the next 2 decades, Victoria and Albert have 9 children. And Victoria does something few monarchs before her have attempted on this scale. She treats her children's marriages as a way to connect the royal houses of Europe. Her eldest daughter, known as Vicky, marries Prince Frederick, the future King of Prussia and German Emperor, and moves to Berlin at 17. Her son Alfred marries a Russian Grand Duchess, the daughter of the Tsar. Other children, and later grandchildren, marry into royal houses across the continent. Victoria's descendants eventually appear in royal courts, from Germany and Russia to Spain, Greece, and Romania. For decades, Victoria writes thousands of private letters to her children, scattered across foreign courts, advising, scolding, comforting, and asking for news of her growing number of grandchildren. She hopes that family loyalty, reinforced by these personal bonds, can build trust between nations that formal diplomacy alone cannot reach. It is a bold experiment, built on love as much as strategy. Newspapers will later give her a nickname for it, the grandmother of Europe. But whether family ties between royal cousins can really hold back the political forces of an entire continent is a question no one yet knows the answer to. But hidden inside this growing family network is something no marriage plan can control. Victoria carries the gene for hemophilia, a disorder that stops blood from clotting properly. Neither she nor anyone else understands this yet. The science does not exist. Her own son Leopold already suffers from the disease itself. 2 of her daughters carry the gene without showing any symptoms at all. As her children and grandchildren marry into other royal families, that hidden gene quietly enters royal bloodlines across Europe. In December of 1861, tragedy strikes. Prince Albert falls seriously ill. Doctors at the time diagnosed typhoid fever, though historians today still debate what truly killed him. He dies on the 14th of December, at only 42 years old. Victoria is devastated. She wears black for the rest of her life. For years, she withdraws almost completely from public view, spending long stretches of time at Balmoral and Osborne House, away from London. Newspapers criticize her absence. Rumours spread about her close friendship with a Scottish servant named John Brown, damaging her reputation further. In Britain, Republican sentiment grows, with some politicians openly questioning whether the country still needs a monarch who refuses to be seen. It is her Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, who helps pull her back into public life. He understands how to win her trust. He writes warmly, respects her opinions, and gives her a renewed sense of public purpose. In 1876, his government persuades Parliament to pass a law allowing her to take a new title, Empress of India. Slowly, Victoria re-emerges. And through all of this, the attacks on her life continue. Across her 63 years on the throne, historians count 8 assassination attempts or violent assaults against Victoria in total. An unemployed Irishman named William Hamilton fires an unloaded pistol at her carriage in 1849, apparently just to be arrested and fed in prison. A disturbed former army officer strikes her with a cane in 1850. A rejected poet fires a pistol at her at a train station in Windsor in 1882. Several of these attacks, like the very first, in 1840, renew public sympathy rather than public fear. By 1887, her Golden Jubilee, celebrating 50 years on the throne, draws enormous crowds into the streets of London, with kings, queens, and princes from across Europe arriving to honor her. 10 years later, her Diamond Jubilee turns her into something more than a monarch. Troops and leaders from every corner of her empire, from Canada to India to Australia, march past her carriage. She becomes a living symbol of an empire that now spans the entire globe. Victoria dies at Osborne House on the 22nd of January, 1901. She has reigned for 63 years, longer than any British monarch before her. By now, her family stretches into nearly every royal court in Europe, and newspapers already call her the grandmother of Europe. But the true test of her family's power comes 13 years later. Flash forward to 1914. 2 of Victoria's own blood grandsons now sit on opposing thrones. Kaiser Wilhelm II rules Germany. King George V rules Britain. In June, an assassin's bullet kills Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo. Within weeks, a tangled web of military alliances pulls one country after another into war. Family connection cannot overcome any of it. Not the alliances, not the rising nationalism, not the cold decisions made by generals and governments, far from any royal palace. Europe goes to war, and Victoria's grandsons now wear the crowns of opposing nations. Meanwhile, in Russia, Victoria's granddaughter Alexandra has married into the imperial throne as Tsarina, and unknowingly carried the hemophilia gene into the Russian royal family. Her only son, Alexei, heir to the throne, suffers from the disease. His illness draws Alexandra toward a mysterious healer named Grigory Rasputin. Rasputin's growing influence over the royal household deepens public distrust. It comes at the exact moment the Romanov dynasty can least afford it. Within 3 years, that dynasty collapses entirely. Nicholas II, connected to Victoria's family through marriage, not by blood, is forced to give up his throne. The family Victoria built to connect Europe did not cause the continent's destruction. But when the moment came, it proved powerless to stop it. Do you think family ties can ever truly prevent nations from going to war? Tell us what you think in the comments. The system meant to keep Victoria dependent failed to define her. From the moment she became queen, she claimed control over her own life. Then, for over 60 years, she tried to extend that same control over a monarchy, over a public image, and over an entire family spread across a continent. But Victoria's own legacy revealed its limit. A person can shape a family. They cannot control what history will demand of the generations that follow. Influence can travel across generations. Control cannot. Victoria escaped the system that was built to control her. She reshaped a monarchy, built a family across Europe, and became the symbol of an entire age. Her name still marks an era. We call it the Victorian Age, and much of the modern world. From constitutional monarchy to the modern royal family's public image, still carries her fingerprints. If you want to understand more about the monarchy Victoria helped shape, watch our video on Britain, where we trace the island's story across 500 years of change. And if you enjoyed this journey through history, subscribe. New stories are waiting to help you practice your English while you learn something real.